So if you're looking at all the things you don't have on social media, why don't you just spend just a few moments thinking of all the stuff you do have? And I don't mean physical stuff. I mean blessings that we take for granted. Like, again, teeth. Teeth are a wonderful thing. Dental care and having running water and power. Those are things that we take for granted in the United States.
Don't even make the list.
Don't even make
99%
the list. And
of the time.
there are so many families that come to us in Springfield, Missouri, who don't have running water.
Yeah.
We forget that that's even a reality. So taking time to do an inventory of that, huge. Obviously, we're a faith-based organization, so prayer, that is huge. Thanking God for all the blessings that you have. And again, if that's not your thing, being conscious of the things that you do have, that is going to improve your mental state and your well-being.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of At Home with Emily, a podcast about creating a life you love. And obviously we are gearing up for the holiday season. If you were like my mom, you've already had the frozen turkey for a while. Like, you are not going to be left without your Thanksgiving ingredients. And so I thought it was the perfect time to talk about gratitude. And there is tons of research out there to come through about gratitude and all the benefits that it has for us in life and how that you practice it. So then my next question was, who am I going to bring in on this one? And Miss Jamie came to mind. And so Jamie Trussell is here with us from the Council of Churches, which is an umbrella organization for so many groups in our community that do so much good. And the reason that I thought of you, Jamie, is because gratitude is kind of hard to come by in our current culture. But for me, an antidote for that, always when I was working as a news reporter, was seeing what else is going on right in my own community and the struggles that people are facing and those who are without many of the blessings and benefits that I may have. And that is an antidote right off the top, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That you see every day in the space that you work in?
Definitely. I will tell you, one of the formative experiences I had was to travel to the developing world. I was in Ethiopia, and I was visiting families, single moms, in living circumstances that we have difficulty imagining here in the United States. And what impressed me the most was the joy and hopefulness for the ladies who had a roof over their heads, who might have a bowl, who might have 3 chickens that could provide all the food and income their family needed. It was gratitude for circumstances that we would consider very, very rough. They were grateful. And when I came home and I saw all the things in my son's room, he has video games that cost $50 each.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, oh my goodness, we are so blessed. And I knew that before, but it had never really sunk in until that trip that changed everything. And so
And when was that?
It was probably, the first trip to Ethiopia was probably 2012. And then I went several times when I worked with Convoy of Hope, got to travel all around the world and see, again, poverty like we just can't imagine here in the United States. Growing up in a faith community, we were always taught to count our blessings. But until you see people counting their blessings that you wouldn't even consider blessings.
The number of eggs they got that morning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It made it suddenly real for me.
Well, and two, I think, we have so much. And I speak with parents, and I'm a parent. Obviously, my kids are in kindergarten, 3rd grade. And it's hard to communicate to your children to be grateful when you give them everything.
Sure.
And so you have parents talking about, and I've used the word antidote. What's the antidote? Well, we're going to take them and they're going to go serve a Thanksgiving meal. Okay, well, that's something. But isn't there something about removing yourself from your everyday environment and stepping into somebody else's world? Don't you think that's powerful? I mean, that's what you do every day.
Absolutely. Again, at the Council of Churches, one of the most humbling things I think anyone in Springfield, kids, grandparents, everyone should see is the line that forms every morning when we open the doors for groceries.
At Crosslines?
At Crosslines Food Pantry. It's not like we're giving away cars.
Right.
We're giving away milk, bread, eggs, a few pantry staples, and there's a line every morning. And for kids to know that they can go home and open their fridge and see food to eat, and turn on the faucet and clean water comes out. That's just a perspective most of our kids don't get. And you're exactly right. It takes a different perspective, meeting people who don't take those things for granted, for that to become real. And I do agree. You can't come volunteer at Cross Lines and not get a different perspective.
Well, and by the way, getting those resources is very humbling because you do have to explain why you need them.
That's it. And a lot of people assume, because our parent organization is called Council of Churches, that we are 100% funded by churches. Unfortunately, that is not the case. We're a nonprofit, just like so many other worthwhile nonprofits in town. So donors, generosity, that spirit of giving, which is very frequently inspired by gratitude, because they've been blessed. They feel like they must share their blessings. That is how we are able to provide. We do have some federal programs. There are lots of safety nets in the United States, and we are able to administer some of those programs. But it really relies on the kindness of people to take care of the most vulnerable residents in our community for us to even be here for the folks in need. And again, my gosh, what a perspective to see people who don't have a lot, because many of our most generous donors are not wealthy donors. They're sending $5 and $10 gifts, which mean everything.
Yeah.
To see them share what they have to help others, that's really inspiring.
Well, when you and I were talking about this, it was just a thought. Okay, I'm like, Thanksgiving, gratitude, it fits in perfectly. But really and truly, when you start looking into the research, first of all, there's a huge body of research on the power of thankfulness and being thankful. Yes, it's hard to teach to our kids. Yes, it's hard when we live in the US of A, and we have so many blessings. You guys see the other side of it a lot, and you're able to help impart that. But when we start looking at the research, it's pretty heavy on the benefits, right? So we see multiple universities who've studied this over the course of decades. And one of the things that struck me was some research that came out this year over the summer that showed from JAMA, and it showed that for those people who were exercising daily gratitude, they lived longer lives. You had a 9% return in how much longer that your life was going to be, and they directly associated with that because they were looking at all kinds of factors. Two, we know that the mental health crisis is a real thing here where we live. And again, it's not, okay, I'm going to practice gratitude and I'm going to overcome that.
Right.
However, it does shift your mindset.
Absolutely.
And mindset is a huge thing, and it shifts how you think about things, right? And so what were some of the things that you would recommend for people to do to practice gratitude?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. And I want to jump back to what you said. So anecdotally, we see it. We see people who come in with different mindsets in our waiting room. You can, from talking to them with 3 sentences, you can identify kind of the perspective you're coming from. And there are a lot of folks who, and it has nothing to do with socioeconomic status. It is mindset.
Yeah.
There are very wealthy people who are in a poverty of being.
Miserable.
Because they are not grateful for what they have. And there are people who have nothing who are so grateful that their car started this morning and got them there. Or that we had someone who could pop a lock when they locked their keys in the parking lot. It is a mindset, and it is definitely correlated to your quality of life, as well as you said, there are multiple studies that show not just quality of life, but your general health, lack of disease, lower incidences of cardiovascular health. It is scientifically proven. Your mindset matters. And gratitude is one of the simplest things you can do to help train yourself to be healthier mentally, physically.
But you have to practice it, right? I just think about, especially if you've gone through a hard time or you've gone through a tough season or just for whatever the case is, you are in a different mindset, okay? So how do we start that shift? We already hit on the fact of there are people who need your help. Number one, great place to start. But what are some of the other things that people can do just on a daily basis?
I'm so glad you asked. One of the most thoughtful gifts anyone's ever given me is a gratitude journal.
Interesting.
And it was when I became a CEO, and they were a CEO, and they knew the days could be really hard. And they said in the morning.
Thankless at times?
Yes, sometimes, indeed. But it really challenged me every morning, first thing, to think of something that I was grateful for, something I was looking forward to. And at the end of each day to say, what was the best thing that happened today? So really training yourself to be mindful of the
30 seconds in the morning, 30 seconds at night.
Exactly. Such a great bookend to your day. What am I looking forward to? What am I grateful for? What was I grateful for today?
Listen, it beats scrolling on it.
Absolutely, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. So if you're looking at all the things you don't have on social media, why don't you just spend just a few moments thinking of all the stuff you do have? And I don't mean physical stuff. I mean blessings that we take for granted. Like, again, teeth. Teeth are a wonderful thing. Dental care and having running water and power. Those are things that we take for granted in the United States.
Don't even make the list.
Don't even make
99%
the list. And
of the
there
time.
Are so many families that come to us in Springfield, Missouri, who don't have running water.
Yeah.
We forget that that's even a reality. So taking time to do an inventory of that, huge. Obviously, we're a faith-based organization, so prayer, that is huge. Thanking God for all the blessings that you have. And again, if that's not your thing, being conscious of the things that you do have, that is going to improve your mental state and your well-being. Again, research shows it time and time again.
But making it a habit.
It needs to be a habit.
Where you're doing it every single day.
Exactly. It will change. Within 10 weeks, it has been shown to change your mindset. It is a habit just like working out. If you focus on the positive, you are going to see benefits in your life in many ways that we can't even quantify. And again, we see the folks that struggle the most, the ones who are trapped in a victim mindset. I don't have, they did this to me, I'll never have, it's unfair. Versus the folks who thrive, who are, but thank goodness I have my health, but thank goodness I have my family. We have a lot of guests who say, thank goodness for my puppy dog, this puppy dog who loves me unconditionally. They are so grateful for that kind of unconditional love. It's just a totally different perspective.
Well, on that mindset point that you're bringing up, and practicing it, and can you get that gratitude journal going? Let's talk about, okay, here's where I am today. Here's where I am in this state of mind. What about things from the past, things that have happened? Trying to, how do you do that? How do you overcome, things, and you're like, okay, I'm going to change the way that I think about that.
Right.
Is that part of it?
I'm going to go back to scripture. It says, take captive every thought, right? So every time those intrusive thoughts, because I have a tendency to wake up at 3 a.m. and beat myself up for something I did in second grade.
Why did I do that?
Yes.
Why did this happen?
Second grade, dumbest thing I ever did, right? Take captive that thought. Turn it on its head. Thank goodness I learned from that, so I won't do this ever again, right?
I probably will, but yeah.
I will, exactly. I will make a million mistakes, but
how you frame your past.
How you frame it. And there are so many things to be grateful for. Every lesson, even the painful lessons, are lessons you can learn from. And so to try to reframe that in a way that makes you a better, stronger person. Are you better today than you were then when you did whatever that was? If the answer is yes, then be grateful for that because it was a lesson that wasn't lost. If it's no, then at least you've identified it and you can work on it.
And something else that we were talking about that the research shows, okay, so it's how are we framing what has happened before? And then in your present, too, just talking about how are we looking at what comes our way, okay? So are you grateful when that opportunity landed in your lap? Are you grateful when you got that parking spot by the front door? I mean, does it start with the little things?
100%. I sometimes get teased, and my husband, I remember we were driving somewhere and we made a green light and we were late, and my husband said, thank you, Lord, for that green light. And my brother-in-law thought that was the craziest thing. He's like, do you honestly think the creator of the universe cares that you were running late for this? And my husband said, you know what? I'm grateful for whatever. And I think of all those folks at 9/11, terrible tragedy, but all the folks that were alive because they stopped and bought Band-Aids on their way to work, or they had some minor inconvenience.
You hear those stories.
That made them not be there. So it's a mindset. You can say, dang, I got a flat tire. Or you can say, what did this flat tire keep me from being involved in? What could have happened if I had made that light? There are so many what ifs. If you choose to look at it as this is going to be good and God is going to use this for good, That's a different shift. It could be the same exact circumstances, but it's how you start to think about and talk to yourself about those circumstances that make all the difference. So every tiny thing that happens, be grateful. We woke up this morning. We're healthy this morning. Our cars started this morning. There are a million things to be grateful for.
Just a totally different way to start.
Totally.
But I think too, Jamie, and you see this in your work all the time, but I think when you start taking a pause and a beat to think about things in your life in the glass half full way, which is easier said than done,
Sure.
I think that you do start to notice things around you. Mm-hmm. Maybe this lady's not in my way because she's being rude. Maybe I'm supposed to have an encounter with this lady.
Exactly.
You know, all of a sudden,
goggles, you know, they talk about other kinds of goggles that change your thinking. But when I put on my God goggles, I see God in the little things. Like, okay, why is this person walking so slow? Maybe I need a minute to just pause and be present. You're exactly right. Maybe that's for a purpose.
you start seeing the needs of others.
You absolutely do.
And so we've got the past, the present, and then for future too. I think it can be easy. There's so much negativity in our world right now, you know, coming off of this election, and just how quickly things are happening around the world. I think it can be easy to get down about the future.
Oh, you're so right. And again, it's a conscious practice. And there are lots of days where I'm a glass half full person, generally speaking.
I definitely get that
You
vibe.
probably pick that up. But there are days when it's really hard and I'm really scared. And that is new for me.
Just because external factors.
There are so many things that do feel out of my control and just feel, you know, despair can creep in very easily. But in those times, I remind myself, it's all going to turn out great in the end. And if it's not great, it's not the end. So I just keep looking for, okay, what is this going to teach me? What is the bigger picture? What is the thing that I can look forward to? There are a lot of things we're going to dread in our lives. There are a lot of challenges we're all going to face. Look for the thing that is the lesson that is good in all of that. And I think at the end of the day, people are doing the best they can. And if you can see them doing the best they can instead of not doing the best in the world, I think you can give a lot of grace, and that helps you be grateful for the positive interactions that you do have.
And what opportunities do you have for people to come alongside and help with the Cross Lines organization and with all of the different organizations under Council of Churches?
Yeah, if you ever want to feel truly grateful that you have a house and running water and food to eat and the things that you need.
And get to know some cool people along the way.
And meet some amazing people who might just need a little encouragement. Come visit us. We've got so many positions. There are about 40 different volunteer roles every single day.
Wow.
And everything from greeting guests to working with them in our intake process. It's a questionnaire process to identify needs, to shopping with them, to stacking pantry shelves, to loading grocery cars. I definitely need people to help us load groceries in cars. Young, robust people who are excited. Yes.
We can all do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Stocking shelves, staying overnight with our unsheltered friends. That's a huge need. Advocating for folks in nursing homes. Literally, if you have a desire in your heart to serve,
you'll find a place.
We have a place for you.
I love that. Well, thank you for encouraging all of us today and stopping by to visit with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Emily. This is great.
And thank you so much for joining us for yet another episode of At Home with Emily, a podcast about creating a life you love. I hope you feel encouraged to be grateful this Thanksgiving season. And be sure to join us next week as we have another special guest coming to visit with us about what it means to give back. And she has an incredible story to share. If you are watching us on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe so you can be notified when our next episode drops again every Wednesday. Follow us on all of our social channels and head to AroundTheOzarks.com where you can sign up for our daily newsletter and be notified of all the things. We'll see you next time.